There have been four major pillars that have made this Terminator 2 movie such an incredible Hollywood accomplishment. And any other great movie in history, too, really. And what are they? Well, first of all, I must mention that when going over these four pillars of mine, I am assuming that these great movie projects already have a significant enough financial budget. And with having a large enough budget, any great movie project should already automatically have enough props, technical behind-the-scenes talents, CGI artists, and so on, and so forth to go along with these four major pillars. So with all that having been said, started with our first pillar, and really more like being the foundation of any great movie, is this T2's incredibly brilliant, creative, imaginative, and sci-fi magical, special, beautiful story. And actually, just about every great Hollywood movie started out as a great script or story that was worth giving it the Hollywood treatment and worth applying their movie magic skills and techniques to really help give it new life on that big screen. But getting back to our focus movie, which is this all-time great Terminator 2 film, I couldn't have used any more superlatives than that to describe this blockbuster T2 film in one sentence. But if there was one film, and only one film, that could be spoken of like that, it'd probably be this absolutely incredible and legendary Terminator 2 film. And its story was an absolutely ingenious one that played and worked itself out so spectacularly, beautifully, and perfectly for a mega hero sci-fi flick. Now, moving on to our second major part or pillar of any highly successful Hollywood film is to have a highly talented director who is perfect for the directorial role of that major film project. And James Cameron was perfect for Terminator 2's director spot because he wrote the darn thing, right? So, who would have been better to direct it than the guy who wrote it himself? Or to put it another way, who better to direct your baby than you yourself, the father of that child, right? Who's going to know and understand your brainchild more than and better than you? So, yes, that and another necessary qualifier that he also had to have to make him the best director choice for this super unique T2 project, and that is that he also needed to be a skilled enough and talented enough director at the same time, like some very successful musicians who are not only great singers, but are also a talented pianist or guitarist at the same time too, because it wasn't going to be enough that he was just an amazing visionary and highly talented storyteller. If he was also going to be the director of that story's film adaptation, and the one to lead the efforts in bringing it to life, of course, he needed to also be thoroughly qualified as a film director too. Thankfully for this amazing story, Cameron was skilled enough to also be the right guy for his director duties. And having both of those two incredible abilities at the same time were the two huge and main reasons why I think that T2 turned out to be as spectacular and awesome as it did. And now, at our third necessary pillar to have for any highly successful modern film, and to have as solid gold, if you know what I mean, or just straight up, to have really well like you must with all these other quote-unquote pillars of any great movie, is to have an incredibly talented and unforgettable cast to star in your film. And this all-time great film project was sure fortunate enough to have such a star-studded and highly talented one. But you might still even argue that Arnold Schwarzenegger alone might just be able to hold down this entire third major movie pillar by himself, being the larger-than-life persona and super talent that he's always been, and especially being the prime of his career too at the time, undoubtedly really helped it all to turn out as greatly as it did. But everyone else was no slouch either. Everybody else also brought their A game, and there was no weakest link or bottleneck anywhere in this cast. And whether that was with their youngest star in Edward Furlong, or even with the more minor roles like John Connor's arcade gaming buddy, the entire cast was top-notch and spectacular through and through. Once again, I did not remember seeing or hearing any weakest link or bottleneck performer at all. Everyone was at pro level, through and through, and it was an amazing thing to see. And lastly, as our final and necessary fourth super solid and stout pillar of any amazing movie, is this all too often unsung hero, pun totally intended, as well as it also so very often being such a super underrated member of any great movie team. But the best movie directors and producers know thoroughly well to never skimp out on the second main component of any amazing movie experience. And that component is, the movie soundtrack. And they couldn't have chosen a better composer for the job who gave us such an appropriately robotic and apocalyptic musical theme throughout, Sprinkle with just a bit of hope here and there that the T-800 and John Connor represented throughout this overall and generally dark sci-fi film. But yes, Brad Fiedel, Terminator 2 soundtrack composer, has so greatly and significantly contributed his impressive creativity and talent to this absolute masterpiece of a movie, and as mentioned, one of the absolute greatest of all time. What an impressive cast and crew, and what a legendary team that was brought together to give us one of the most legendary accomplishments in Hollywood history ever.